Hey everyone, it's Jay-Z. Welcome to another episode of My Favorite Product. Thanks for checking this one out. We're going to have a good one today. We've got Denny Klisch. Hey, Denny.
Hi there.
Denny is all over the place in the product management world, has his podcast, Product Management Stories. We'll let him talk about that toward the end. And I'll just kick off this episode by saying it's going to be very complimentary to another episode that we had earlier with Adam Davis talking about Lime Bike. We're going to talk about e-scooters today, and I won't spoil it, but it'll be sort of a crossover where Denny talks about Lime and what they're doing, and maybe some of the product management choices. So really interested to hear about that. Before we jump into Denny's favorite product, though, Denny, would you care to tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me. I had the pleasure to have you on my podcast where we will talk about later, and it was great to meet you there. And now thanks that I have the opportunity to join your stuff on YouTube. So yeah, I'm Denny. I'm from Germany, so not a native speaker. So if you don't understand me sometimes, I hope John can translate this for me. And living here in Wiesbaden, which is close to Frankfurt. I'm married. I have a little kid. She's 3 now, but still little to me. A daughter, better to say, not just a kid, but a daughter. It's pretty cool. I love traveling around. So I've been to the US a couple of times. However, I have to admit my most favorite country is New Zealand. To be honest, I absolutely loved it there. I was there like twice. I love to do sport. So I think in America it's called soccer. In Europe we call it football. This is something I love. I'm working in product for over 10 years now, leading a team now for like 5 years in B2B, software as a service for public transport. But I guess we will also talk about this a little bit later. And absolutely love it. Product management is a great profession where you can learn so many things, where it's so exciting to meet new people and you never stop learning there. So the learning curve is always ongoing. So yeah, looking forward to chat here today.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And you're a practicing product manager, right? So you're doing the work and you're producing a lot of content with your podcast and otherwise. So I think it's always great to learn from someone like yourself as well. And does your daughter play soccer or not yet? Is
it? She tries sometimes with me, but the funny thing is I'm also like a runner. I like to run a lot.
Yeah.
And she's now sometimes telling me, Denny, come on, or Papa, let's go running. And then she runs with me and do some jogging. And this is pretty funny actually, and does sport with me.
Wow.
She's seeing what I'm doing and tries to do the same. And she's very active in a positive way. So I really like that. And football is something she likes as well, but not as much as running.
Nice. Okay. Well, at least you can do that together.
Yes.
Give her a lot of credit. That's an early age to get into running. So kudos to her. Great. So Denny, let's hear about it. What's your favorite product and why is that?
All right. So in the preparation of the call, you sent over the questions, and I was thinking about this for quite some time. I have many products I really like. For example, I'm a huge Apple fanboy, I have to say it very honestly here. However, what I would like to talk about today are e-scooters. So not like the ones which you can purchase, but actually the one you can rent wherever you are. And I mean, there are different companies out there. I think in the US, very well known are Lime and Bird, for example. They're also in Europe. However, in Europe, we also have others like, for example, Tier Mobility. I think they're even from Germany. We have Voi. Voi is from Sweden. And these are some products I use, for example, when I'm around in the cities. Why do I love these products? Well, I love to get around. When I'm in a city, especially in a new city, I want to see things. And even though I could go by public transport or maybe with a taxi, you're going very fast, and I want to take my own time. I want to do it by my own pace. I walk a lot. However, when the cities are a little bit larger, like for example Berlin or Madrid, so any like larger European city, it's tough to get around a lot with just your feet. So I love to use, for example, like e-scooter. So they are pretty cheap, right? When you have like an subscription, you don't pay any setup fee or any unlock fee. Then you just pay per kilometer, for example, or per minute, and you can get around very fast. Usually they are all over the place in the larger cities, so you can pick them up almost everywhere and can drop them off almost everywhere, of course, in a safe place. So please, let's do that. They're very efficient. In my opinion, they're also sustainable. So I'm using, of course, e-scooters, so there's no CO2 emission, at least when you use it. They're usually very easy to book, right? So there's you just have the app and say, I want to book this this e-scooter, and then you have it basically. You don't have to wait for someone like a taxi to come over. You don't have to check any like public transport tickets. You just book it and have it and can go there. And it's to be honest, kind of cool actually. So when you ride the e-scooter through a large city and the sun is shining, you kind of feel cool to do that. You know?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. Also, doing this with other people and just cruising around through the city is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And the particular brand that you brought up, is it Voigt? Am I getting that right?
Voi, yeah, exactly. So Voi is the one from Sweden, which I
Yeah.
use a lot now in Europe for different reasons, which I can also tell about if you like. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm wondering why that one over some of the others.
So yes, I used to use Lime a lot. Lime has a very cool e-scooter, which is very stable and easy to use. The app is very good. It's very easy payment. The customer flow is very good. However, at one point they changed their operational zone, which means I can't go with a Lime scooter to my home anymore. So I can't just drop off the e-scooter there. So it's a restricted area, which way makes sense on the operational side and also from operational costs and so on, that they always look what makes sense where to have which area, but they were not available for me anymore. But Voi is available in my area where I live, and I can use it to go to the train station, for example. So I use it especially for when I want to come around in like the cities, but also like a very regular cases for me to use an e-scooter to go from home to the train station, take the train to work basically. And when coming back using the e-scooter again. And there, of course, I need something which is available in my area. And that was actually like the core reason why I switched from go from Lime to Voi. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you almost didn't have a choice, right? If you want to use an e-scooter.
Yeah, well, we have two different vendors who are available in my service area, or where I live, better to say. It's Voi, and there's another one, but I'm not gonna say the name because I'm not happy with the product. The software is good, so the app is really good, but the hardware, which means the e-scooter, is kind of, I don't know, wobbly and very heavy. It's not too good to steer. So I'm very hardly using them, only when I really have to, and I have to go from A to B and need an e-scooter. Then I use this product, but usually I don't, even though they are available.
Oh, I see. Okay, so more about the safety aspect of it is why you're picking Voigt.
Yeah, the one is the safety, and the other one, how good does it feel when I drive, right? I don't want to, when it's too heavy, then you may have a longer braking time, so if you brake earlier, you can't take off that fast. Not like I'm not really fast, but however, it takes some time to get to a certain level of kilometers per hour. And it just feels a little bit heavy when you try to navigate. And you know, it's like riding with a bike, right? So it has to be smooth so you go around the corner. And with the e-scooters, especially, because you're not as balanced as with a bike, so it has to be very smooth, and this doesn't really feel smooth. So yes, essentially, it's about this security there as well, yeah.
Oh,
or safety, better to say, yeah.
And is that reflected in the pricing, or is that just a manufacturing kind of outcome that these two vendors have had?
So I assume it's a manufacturing thing. So if you look at the e-scooter, they all look very similar, right? So they have, so one core differentiator is of course the battery. So how far can you actually go?
Oh, yeah.
And for example, like Lime, they have products where they have a very small battery, so you can't go that far. And they have a new product which is out there for like 1 year, a new e-scooter where there's a larger battery. And if you look at the e-scooter, how it is built, there's not much space where you can put actually a battery. So they made a choice there. And on the pricing, if you look at the pricing, they are all very similar. I mean, the difference is maybe that if you pay a subscription that you get free unlocking for a month or so, but the price, I mean, we're talking about very low margin pricing. So like maybe €1, or better to say like 10 cent, 15 cent, or maybe even less per kilometer or per minute. So there's not much difference actually in the pricing. So it's I would say, manufacturer choice. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm always thinking about that relationship between quality and price. And if it was a conscious decision by this other vendor, I appreciate you not naming them, but are they, consciously making the decision to spend less on manufacturing, or, basically pull that quality lever for the sake of keeping costs down and offering
Yeah.
a lower price solution? Sounds like they're not. So, interesting decision there. Cool. So let's move on to our second question, which is kind of the flip side. If you think about the e-scooter and the brand that you're using today, what can be improved?
Yeah, there's the also it depends on the vendor, right? So again, the offering is very similar. You have an app where you can book something. It's pretty straightforward to register and to pay, for example, with credit card or PayPal or whatever you like, basically. Then you can pick up the e-scooter, drive and drop it off almost everywhere. So one key differentiator beside the actual hardware is, for example, the service area. However, there are several things where I would say things can be made differently or made stronger for the customer. And here I would like to differentiate the product in three different components. For me, it's number one, it's actually the software slash the consumer app. So the app I use to actually register and to book an e-scooter. The second thing is the hardware, which means the e-scooter itself. And the third one is actually the service they provide. So for example, the service area and the availability of these e-scooters. So if I look at these things, so now looking at Voi right now, the one I prefer, I have like three different things I would like to address where they have potential, to say it very positive.
Sure.
So number one is one of my major use cases is to commute, to go from my home to the train station. So the trains are not waiting for me, right? So they have a certain time when they go, which means I know when my train goes, I know how long it takes for me to get to the train, and therefore I know when I have to start from home. So the challenge here is I have a map where I can see whether there are any e-scooter available around my area, which is good. However, I don't know once I arrive at the e-scooter whether it's still available. So it could be that someone else is booking it while I'm walking to the e-scooter. So my suggestion is have a reserving or pre-booking function. And to be honest, for example, Lime does do this, right? I think they have you can reserve an e-scooter for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then you know you will have it once you arrive at the e-scooter, right? For Voi, the suggestion is do this, please, because otherwise I'm always in the, is it really available once I'm there, or do I have to run? So this
There's
is
a
the
little
number one.
anxiety, right? Is
Yeah,
it going to be there
exactly.
when
Yeah.
I get there? Yeah.
Usually when I go in the morning, I don't have the issue. However, this is number one on the software side. Number two on the hardware, this is now the use case when I run through larger cities. So when there's a larger city and I don't know my way around, of course I use like a map, like Google Maps, or maybe the maps from Apple or whatsoever. I'm using usually Google Maps. And if I don't use my Apple Watch, actually. However, I'm always having two hands on the steering wheel, so I'm using Google Maps there. So the thing is, how can I navigate while I'm driving? So they have, of course, a smartphone holder, which makes sense, so you can pretty much see it while you're driving. However, this is on Voi, it is a totally 100% plastic holder. And I know by fact, because it happened to me before, when the road gets a little bit bumpy, there's a high likelihood my phone will fall off, right? Because it's very stiff and it doesn't move. So, and it happened to me before that my iPhone actually, I was in Helsinki and I could really see how it was flying across me and then fall down when I was driving with an e-scooter and was, oh no, my iPhone. Well, and here it totally makes sense to also look what competitors are doing. Lime is doing a very good job on their, one of their production lines. They also had the plastic holder, and in the newest version, which came out like I think 1 year or 2 years ago, they have kind of a net, which like, I would say like, it's a gummy net where you can put this in and it moves while you're driving. It doesn't feel like loose or so. It just has some wiggle room once you're going on a bumpy road. Then the phone is a little bit moving, but you know it will not fall down because it does have enough wiggle room. So this is something I would suggest on the hardware side. Don't just have plastic smartphone holder. Please get more sophisticated to make sure the phone will really not fall off. And the last thing I was talking about, the provided service. So the service area and availability. Voy had a service area change. I think it was also in Wiesbaden. It was across the train station. I usually could park or drop off my e-scooter right next to the train station, but since a couple of weeks I can't anymore. I have to do it like in a 500 meters back, which is okay for me. I don't mind walking these 500 meters, but they never told me that they changed the service area, which means I went to the train station. I want to drop off my e-scooter, and then my phone said, or the app said, no, you can't. There's a no parking zone. I said, what? I'm doing this for 1 year now. Okay, so I have to go back and have to find basically a place where I can drop it off. So essentially, service area changes are no problem in my opinion, but please talk about this. So when you do this, please be open about it and give an open communication there. So this is something I would also recommend to avoid, but also Line, they also did a change and didn't talk about this. Even though it's maybe bad for the customer that they are losing certain things, but it's better you tell them that then they have to find out themselves.
Right. So that problem's across the entire industry potentially, right? Or at least these
at least for the two vendors. I'm not sure about the others, but for these two, there was no communication about any changes in the service area.
You know, if there's a team out there, and by the way, with the iPhone, I have daughters as well. I have twin daughters that are 11. I think they'd be more interested in protecting their phones than they would themselves. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. And I'm probably not too far behind that either. So it's quite an investment nowadays for a phone. But yeah, I'm picturing an e-scooter team at their office in a garage looking to launch their first product offering. And I hope they find this episode because you're laying out the playbook for an e-scooter company to compete.
At least some suggestions, yeah.
Yeah, no, these are really important. I think, they're not little things, but they might seem like it, right? Especially like, the structure, the way you're protecting the phone, which is vital, right? So you finding where you need to go, and just making sure that that's high enough quality to protect your belongings. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I like how you compartmentalized everything there as well. So my last question for you, with the e-scooter market and some of the brands you've used, how have they taught you to be a better product manager?
Yeah, this was a really interesting question. I had to think about this a little bit. So also there are different things I would like to point out. So the first one I would headline it as partner management. So I have to talk about a little bit what I'm doing. So I'm working in B2B software as a service, and we build software for public transport. And one of our products is a so-called DRT, Demand Responsive Transport Platform. And this offers a new mode of public transport. So basically, when you, John, go from A to B and I go from C to B, our algorithm is looking, does it make sense to pool these two rides in one car and we both get to the same destination at the same time? So instead of you going from A to B, you're going from A to C first, you pick me up as well, and you go from C to B and we go together, ride sharing, right? So it's not a taxi, which is ride hailing, it is ride sharing to more sustainable and something for public transport. So the thing here is we are just a platform, so just a software as a service. However, one major part is, for example, the vehicle, is the drivers, is the service area, is the availability, and so on. So something which we are not doing, but which is very important for the whole offering, which means essential when you have a software, which is not a standalone software, which you can simply use and that's it, like WhatsApp, for example, but you're just part of the value chain. Think about the whole value chain. Think about, of course, what you maybe want to do by yourself, totally by yourself. I mean, we could also think about to also do the operations, right? Like having drivers and vehicles, but we don't. We're a software service company. However, we must think about the whole customer journey, and therefore we can't just think about our software and make this awesome, but also have to think about how the service can be awesome. So what I'm saying here is on partner management, you have to think through the whole customer journey and also find the right partners who are selling your product or using your product to enable something they are offering. And one important use case for us is, and we're doing it now heavily, is autonomous driving. So I think most of you know like Waymo and Cruise, who are doing like a ride sharing, autonomous ride sharing in the US, especially like in the West Coast. I know they are, I think in San Francisco now, forbidden for cruise.
Yep.
However, they did it for quite some time, and they will go even further. So what we are doing, like a practical example, we are talking now to the vendors who are building the shuttles, because essentially, John, when you will use an autonomous shuttle at a certain time, there's no more driver anymore. Your experience is the app to book, but also the vehicle will be part of your experience. We're not building the vehicles, but we're now talking to the ones who are building vehicles and give our requirements, and want to make sure to partner with the right vendors to have an overall best experience you can have when you want to have a ride with an autonomous shuttle. So this is, for me, like number one, I would say partner management was, I could really see now that this is very important, not just to think about your part of the value chain.
I love that. I think that's really important advice. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. The second thing is, for me, I called it like feature strategy. So, and I have to talk about line now. And the core question is that you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of the feature you are shipping? So line used to have so-called line points. You could collect them, right? For every ride, you could collect line points. You could see it in your profile. You have 100 line points, 200 line points, whatsoever, right? It sounded cool, but no one had the clue, what can I do with that? So if you Google it, just Google it, line points, you get Reddit threads where people say, I have 13,000 line points. I still don't know what to do with it. There's no FAQ, there's nothing on the website, and so on. So no one knew what to do with it. And actually, I checked this out today again, just to see whether it's still there. They removed actually the line points. So it seems like that they had an idea, maybe it was a reward program or something like that, but they never made the point to actually use it and actually, let's say, elevate it and leverage actually the idea which they're having. So it seemed to me that they had an idea, they shipped something maybe fast, but they never got to a point where they made it actually valuable to the user. So the advice is, when building features, please think these through from A to Z in best case. Of course, ship an MVP, totally got this. However, don't just throw them over the fence. Don't just throw the feature over the fence. Let the user find out what it is. It's really bad experience, because you're used to, when you see in other products that you're collecting points, you're used to, you get something for that, right? Maybe you get like a free ride, for example, or the ride is cheaper. We are used to it to get incentivized by using a product. And they shipped something where it felt like a promise, I get incentivized while using a product, but they never delivered on the potential purpose, which was maybe there. So this is like the second thing. Please have a strategy when shipping features.
I like it. And just to go back to your first point, I think it's critical to not be so myopic around, like you said, the product that you manage or the feature that you manage, and instead try to zoom out and see the world. It's not a perfect comparison, and hopefully I'm not hijacking your point, but I worked on a marketing automation product, and we didn't do digital advertising through it. We did email, we did some other channels, but we didn't do search or anything programmatic with digital. So in a lot of cases, we would, just kind of wave that off. That's someone else's problem. But when you do digital advertising and people come to your forums, or people, respond to some of your other assets, you need to capture where they're coming from. And if those digital ads are the source of, this lead coming into your system. So I think you do need to look at that entire ecosystem, the entire, customer journey, as you called it, and think about how that's going to affect your product. It's so important. And I've made that mistake, especially earlier in my career when I was younger at product management, not looking at the wider. And I think it's another reason why you need to get out and talk to customers, is when you do that, especially in person, you see some of the things on their whiteboard. You see some of the things that are, written down in their office, what people are talking about. You can get a sense of what's top of mind for your customers. So that's really good feedback. And then the half-built features that you mentioned before. Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, finish the job, right? Make them worthwhile. But even, with Starbucks or some of the coffee shops, they'll say 2 more visits until you can redeem this, or you have enough points to get something in return. And even having those little nudges can give you something toward, to work toward, I guess, or to purchase toward. So I think that's critical feedback as well.
Starbucks is doing a great job there. I'm a huge fan of Starbucks, and I'm also part of their program where you can collect the points. When you buy something, you get the points, and then you can redeem it to get a free coffee, for example. And they're doing it in a very good way with sending emails, for example. You get notifications in the app itself. You always see where you're at, and that only like one coffee is missing to get one free. So you're almost pushed to, okay, I want to have a coffee now to get one for free, right? So that's why I think Lime had a great idea with incentivizing using the product, right? Increasing retention, but they didn't finish the job, right? So they got rid of it now. And again, just Google it, Lime points, and you can read so many funny Reddit threads about this, where people say how many points they have and they don't know what to do with it.
And they're not like NFTs or, you know, any kind of cryptocurrency that you can take with you, right, and sell it on some
maybe for some pro users, but definitely not for me.
It might be a novelty item someday. All right, well, Denny, it was great to have you. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom, your thoughts, and you know, a lot of great points on the e-scooter market and industry. Where can people find you, and anything you wanted to plug?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. It was a great time to talk about e-scooters. I hardly talk about e-scooters, so it was pretty cool. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. My name is Kiwi Denny. So best thing, you just link my name there.
Yes,
and I'm also on great one. LinkedIn, not that active to be honest, but you can find me there. I also have a podcast, as John was mentioning before. He was a guest, so you can listen to this. Podcast is called Product Management Stories. And yeah, just drop me a message, and I'm happy to talk about product management, but also other things. Thanks.
Yeah, I've been on your podcast, but I'll be honest, you've had some real titans of the industry on there that people should check out. I mean, big names with really, you know, really great thought leaders too. So, and it's a great podcast. You can learn a lot from it. I can vouch for it. So, thanks again, Denny, and thanks everyone for checking us out. We'll be back soon with another episode. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.